The scrape of my son's boot on the icy step was still ringing in my ears when I realized he hadn't come toward me by accident. Still, I steadied my breath, fingers brushing the cold rail that had failed under his urgency. As that scrape echoed again, it stretched into every time he'd treated my house like something he already owned. While the sound settled into my ribs, I understood the fall wasn't the danger, the entitlement was. The same harsh scrape told me where the real rot lived. That's when I decided his name would never touch my deed again. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor, subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The morning my son decided my house was his solution, the front steps reminded me who actually owned them. The Boise air was sharp enough to sting my lungs. Frost glazed the wooden porch, a thin, treacherous sheen I'd already noted when I stepped out. Old habit, once a home inspector, always a home inspector. I knew how fast one bad surface could ruin a life. I held the envelope between two fingers. 3 months past due, I said, again. Caleb stood on the bottom step, hands jammed in his jacket pockets, jaw tight. He looked bigger on my stairs than he ever had as a boy, but somehow smaller than the man I'd hoped he'd grow into. I told you I've got it covered, he said. You going through my mail now? It's addressed here, I reminded him. My name is still tied to some of these accounts. When you don't pay, it hits me too. He shrugged, eyes flicking away like the yard suddenly fascinated him. Patchy snow, rutted tire tracks, the leaning mailbox he still hadn't fixed. So help out, he said. You've got savings, retirement, all that. That's not how adulthood works, I said softly. You and Tara wanted your own life. That means handling your own bills. The wind slid under my coat. Somewhere down the block, a snowblower coughed to life. Our neighborhood liked to pretend everything was fine, even with notices piling up and voices raised just low enough not to reach the sidewalk. Caleb's gaze snapped back to me. You're sitting on a paid-off house, he said. Hundreds of thousands just sitting there. Sell it, Mom. We could all breathe again, get something newer, put it in our names, make it fair. There it was, not even wrapped in politeness this time. This house is my security, I said. I'm not putting it on the market because you can't manage a budget. His face hardened. You don't need all this space. You're almost 70. You think you'll be climbing these stairs forever. I tightened my grip on the railing. A hairline crack ran through the top rail. I'd planned to reinforce it in the spring. It was still sound, stronger than the man standing below it as it turned out. I'm not selling, I said, and I'm not putting you on the title. Fix your spending. Don't try to fix that by gutting my life. He took a step up, boots scraping ice. We were eye level now, his breath steamed between us. Sell the damn house, Mom, he said, low and angry. I'm trying to take care of my family and you're blocking us. You're not listening, I answered. I won't. His arm came up too fast, too close. Maybe he meant to grab me, maybe to emphasize his point. But his forearm brushed my hip, his weight surged forward, and the balance I'd maintained on icy surfaces for decades vanished. My boot slipped. The world flipped backward. I hit each step on the way down, shoulder, ribs, tailbone, until the last one caught me square in the back. A crack snapped through my wrist as I threw my hand out to break the impact. Heat flooded the joint, followed by a rolling wave of pain that stole my breath. For a moment, all I saw was white sky, bare tree limbs, and my own shocked exhale puffing into the cold. The concrete at the bottom was unforgiving. Cold seeped through my coat into my spine, a slow, numbing bite. I tried to move my hand and saw my wrist angled wrong. I'd seen fractures before on job sites. I didn't need an x-ray to know. The front door flew open. Oh my God, Tara's voice ripped through the air. Her boots appeared at the top of the stairs, then her perfectly done face, makeup flawless. She clutched the door jamb but didn't come down even one step. Don't move, I managed. My wrist, something s broken. Caleb stood still on the second step, chest heaving, eyes wild. For half a second there was naked panic there. Then his expression shifted, panic cooling into something practiced. Mom, he said loudly for Tara, for the quiet houses around us. You slipped. I told you to watch the ice. Tara nodded rapidly, latching onto the script. I knew these stairs were dangerous, she said. She leaned wrong. I told you we should have put in a ramp or something. I stared up at them, pain clawing at my ribs, wrist throbbing in time with my heartbeat. I started, but the words dissolved into a groan. Caleb crouched just out of reach, eyes locked on mine. D. Aunt, try to talk, he said, fake concern coating every syllable. You're disoriented, you fell, it was an accident. He pulled out his phone and dialed. His voice went smooth, controlled. Yes, my elderly mother slipped on the ice, he told the dispatcher. Yes, she fell down the stairs. No, nobody pushed her. Lying for me about me, while the bones he'd helped send into the concrete screamed. As the siren began to wail somewhere in the distance, I realized something with a calm that surprised even me. He thought the story started with my fall. He had no idea it really started with his. The siren hadn't even turned onto our street yet, and they were already rewriting gravity. She sort of leaned wrong, Tara said, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. You remember, Marion, you were turning to go back inside. She watched my face while she said it, like she could will the memory into me. I lay flat on the concrete, the cold soaking through my coat, my wrist screaming every time my pulse beat. The sky above the eaves looked washed out like it didn't want to see this either. Caleb paced at the top of the steps, phone tucked into his pocket now, boots scraping the frost. Every lap he wore a clearer line into the ice. That's not what I said, he muttered. Tara's head snapped toward him. What? I told dispatch you slipped, he said, irritation bleeding through. You didn't say anything about turning. It's the same thing, she snapped back. She leaned, she lost her balance, nobody pushed her. The word hung there, heavier than the others. My fingers on my good hand curled into the blanket someone had finally thrown over me. I said nothing. Home inspectors live or die on observation, not chatter. Same rule applied here. The front door opened with a soft click. Dad, Liam's voice floated out. What happened? He stepped onto the porch, skinny shoulders hunched in his hoodie, hair sticking up like he'd been tugging at it. His eyes found me immediately, then dropped to my twisted wrist. Grandma, he breathed, and his knees hit the bottom step almost before Tara could say his name. Liam, stay back, she ordered. It's slick, you'll fall too. He ignored her, moving carefully down until he was crouched near my good side. His hand rested so lightly on my sleeve I barely felt it. You okay? He whispered. Been better, I said. I'll live. He glanced up at his father, then back down. His voice got even smaller. I saw. My heart stuttered. From where? I asked. My window, he said. You were talking, then he cut himself off, throat working. That's not what happened, he said, louder now, eyes burning. You didn't just lean. Tara's face tightened. Liam, you didn't see clearly, she said. You always get things mixed up when you're scared. No, I don't, he shot back, but the fight in it wilted as Caleb's gaze snapped to him. Far down the block, the siren grew into a wail, then into a howl as the ambulance turned onto our street. Red and white light washed the snowbanks, the sighting Caleb's pale face. Two paramedics jumped out, working in sync. A woman with a braid tucked into her cap knelt beside me, her gloved hand warm through the blanket. I'm Kelsey, she said. Hi, Marion, that your name? I nodded, talking cost more than I wanted to spend. Okay, just breathe with me, where hurts worst. Wrist, I murmured, ribs on this side. I managed a tiny tilt of my head. She followed my eyes, winced at the angle of the joint, then signaled to her partner. He was already opening a splint kit, pen stuck behind his ear. Who saw it happen? He called up toward the porch. I did, Caleb said. I was right here, she slipped. Tara jumped in. She turned wrong, she twisted to come back inside and overcorrected. I told her to take the rail, but she doesn't listen. The paramedic with the pen paused. So she slipped, he said slowly, or she twisted. It's slippery, Caleb said, jaw flexing. It all kind of happened at once. That's not, Liam started. Enough, Tara hissed through her teeth. You're upsetting Grandma. No, I thought, you're worried what he'll say. Kelsey wrapped my arm firm and sure. Any dizziness before you went down, she asked. Chest pain, blurry vision. No, I said, just an argument. She didn't comment, but something shifted behind her eyes. A patrol car eased up behind the ambulance, engine quiet. The man who stepped out took his time, looking at the steps, the rail, the scuffed frost where my body had landed. His name tag caught the light, Denton. He came close enough that his breath mingled with ours. Afternoon, folks, he said. I'm just here to get the basics down. Officer, these stairs, Tara started. In a minute, ma'am, he said, not unkindly. His gaze landed on Caleb. You called it in. Yes, Caleb said, I'm her son. And you're saying she slipped, oh, Denton asked. Yes, I mean yes, she lost her footing. While turning, Tara added quickly, like I said, SH. He leaned back too far. Denton's eyes moved between them. Funny thing about accidents, he said lightly, people usually remember them the same way. He looked at Liam next. You see any of it, buddy? Liam's fingers tightened on my sleeve. Just the end, he said. It was fast. Denton let the silence sit for a few beats. The only sound was the velcro of the blood pressure cuff, the distant hum of the ambulance engine. Then he crouched a little, bringing himself level with me. Ms. Burke, he said, voice low enough that it almost didn't carry. When they get you patched up, I'll want to hear how you remember it. Take your time. 3 people flinched at once, and none of them were wearing uniforms. I met his eyes, my own calm, in a way that surprised me. I will, I said. He slipped a card under the edge of my blanket, name, number, a quiet promise. As the paramedics lifted me toward the waiting ambulance, Caleb stepped back out of the light, face tight. For the first time since I'd hit the ground, I saw something that wasn't anger or annoyance in his eyes. It was fear, because he'd just realized the fall wasn't the only thing that might get recorded. They set my arm like it was carpentry, measure, align, secure. I focused on that instead of the pain. Hold still for me, Ms. Burke, the ortho tech said. Wet plaster wrapped my forearm, warm at first, then tightening as it hardened. This is temporary. Once the swelling's down, we'll swap you into something lighter. Feels like a concrete sleeve, I said. Better than loose bones, he replied, not wrong. Through the half-drawn curtain, I could hear Tara's shoes clicking, Caleb's heavier steps pacing, Liam's sneakers motionless. That last silence pulled at me more than anything. The curtain moved and Officer Denton stepped in, hat tucked under his arm, notebook already in his hand. Afternoon again, Ms. Burke, he said. Mind if we go over what happened while they finish up? I'd rather you ask now than when I'm home on pain pills, I said. He took a spot near the foot of the bed, angled so he faced me. I want your version in your words, from when you stepped outside. Caleb pushed through the curtain before I could start. Tara slipped in behind him, perfume sharp in the disinfectant air. Liam stayed just inside the opening, fingers twisted in the hem of his hoodie. Is this really necessary right now? Tara asked. She's been medicated, she might not remember things clearly. Denton didn't even look at her. She's oriented and this is her call, he said. Go ahead, Ms. Burke. I pictured the porch, the boards, the exact distance between us. I went out to talk with my son about some unpaid bills, I said, voice steady. We were standing on the steps. I was holding the rail. He moved toward me quick. His arm hit my hip. I lost balance and went backward down the stairs. That makes it sound like Caleb started. You'll have a chance to speak, Denton said mildly, eyes never leaving mine. Any lightheadedness before that, ma'am? Black spots, dizzy spell, anything medical? No, I said. I've walked those steps for 20 years. The only new factor was him closing the distance. The tech finished molding the splint, smoothing the edges. My arm felt heavy, trapped, but at least it was contained, unlike them. Liam's eyes filled suddenly. A tear slid off his chin and hit his jeans. He scrubbed at his face fast, like he could erase the evidence. Hey, I said softly. I'm all right, just a few broken parts. I heard you yelling, he whispered. Then there was a crash. I thought he swallowed. I thought you were dead. His voice cracked on the last word. Caleb flinched. Tara seized the opening. You see what this is doing to him, she said, turning on me. All this drama, we're under so much pressure, Marion, the mortgage, credit cards, everything going up. We asked for your help because we're drowning. You asked me to hand over my house, I said. That's different. We're family, she said, eyes shining now. You sitting on a paid-off place while we're struggling, it doesn't make sense. If you put us on the deed or sold, this wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't be fighting on icy steps. There it was, the equation she'd been working in her head for months. Denton clicked his pen once. Just to be clear, he said to me, tone formal now, do you feel muddled about what you've told me, pressured to say it one way or another? I met his gaze. My body's banged up, I said. My memory is he came at me, I went down, if I had simply misstepped, I'd say so, I don't owe anyone a cover story. Caleb's composure cracked. So what, you want to label me abusive? He snapped. You're going to ruin my life over one bad moment. I said what I needed in your report, I told Denton. For now, that's all I'm doing. For now, Caleb repeated, color draining from his face. The plaster finished curring around my wrist, solid as a promise, lying there stuck under hospital. Lights, I started quietly sorting through every word, every expression, every contradiction, the way ID once traced water damage back to the hidden leak. They thought this was just an incident report. I was already treating it like the first page of a file I planned to keep, very, very carefully. The house sounded different when I came back in a sling. Every familiar creak felt louder, every draft sharper. I eased myself into the chair at the kitchen table, cast propped on a folded dish towel, pain pulsing in time with the ticking clock on the wall. The blue estate binder sat in the middle of the table like it had been waiting for this exact day. Estate planning, Burke. It had some dust on it, not much. I'd always planned to get back to it soon. Funny how fast soon shows up when you've measured the distance between your body and the concrete. I opened it with my good hand. Copies of the deed, my will, account summaries, the careful work I'd done after my husband died so Caleb wouldn't have to dig through chaos if anything happened to me. Near the back, a manila folder was clipped in with a pink paperclip that absolutely was not mine. A sticky note clung to the front in rounded handwriting. Talk W. Caleb, future of the house. Tara. I peeled the note off and opened the folder. Printouts from those helpful emails she'd been forwarding for months stared back at me. Streamlining your legacy. Making things easy for family. Simple ways to avoid probate. Highlighter marked specific lines. Consider adding adult children to your deed to avoid court delays. Joint ownership ensures a smooth property transition. In the margin, Tara had written, "This no-drama house goes straight to a smiling face with smiling eyes." Underneath, in Caleb's blocky scrawl, "Show mom, sell it as protection." Page after page, articles about reverse mortgages, refinancing, unlocking your equity. More highlighter, more notes. Arrows pointing to phrases about children using the home or tapping value early. Not one word underlined about my safety, my healthcare, my independence. Just ways to turn my roof into their lifeline. If I'd signed the draft paperwork sitting 3 sections back in this binder, they'd already be on the deed. Today's accident would be happening in a very different legal landscape. My cast felt heavier. I found her card tucked into the flap. SHILACORBINESQ, Estate and Property Law. The office number was the same one I'd called when I was newly widowed and terrified of missing something important. Back then, Sheila had helped me build a plan. Now I needed help tearing parts of it down. I dialed. "Sheila Corbin." "It's Marion," I said. "Marion Burke, I'm still in Boise, still in the same house. Fewer intact bones than last time we spoke." Marion, her voice softened then sharpened. "What happened?" I gave her the condensed version. The argument, the shove that wasn't, the fall, the officer, the fact that my son's first instinct was to edit reality, not check my pulse. "And you're still sole owner on the deed?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Every draft where we talked about adding Caleb is still unsigned, but I've just realized those drafts made him a lot bolder than they should have." On the other end, paper rustled, a keyboard clicked. "If they're already treating your property like it's partly theirs," she said, "before their name's anywhere near it, that's a problem." "It's more than a problem," I said. My voice came out flatter than I meant it to. "It's a warning." Sheila didn't try to soothe me. "Good," she said. "Warnings are useful, they mean you still have time to act." I stared at the highlighted lines in Tara's neat handwriting, all those cheerful little exclamation marks pinned to my house like price tags. "What can I actually do?" I asked. "If the people circling your assets have caused you harm," Sheila said, each word deliberate, "you have leverage, legal and otherwise. We can restructure things so they never touch that deed now or when you're gone." Leverage. I looked at the rigid white cast on my arm, the physical proof of what just an accident had cost me, and then at the thick stack of documents they assumed would carry their names someday. "Tell me where to start," I said. On the other end of the line, Sheila's answer was brisk, confident, the sound of a foundation being repoured from scratch. Sheila's office hadn't changed much, same frame degrees, same wall of binders, but the way I sat in the chair had. Last time I was here, I'd clutched tissues and talked about grief. This time I laid my cast on her desk blotter and talked about liability. "So," she said, capping her pen after I finished my story, "you still own the house outright, no one else on the deed. Good, that means we're not undoing damage, we're preventing it." "I want Caleb nowhere near it," I said. "Now or when I'm dead, if that sounds harsh, I can live with harsh." "Harsh is my love language," she said. "Let's get to work." She pulled a clean file folder toward her and wrote my name across the tab. Inside, she slid the first document from her printer, still warm. "New will," she said. "This one wipes out every reference to Caleb as beneficiary. No percentage, no personal property, no residuary catch-all. When you die, he gets exactly what he's earned, nothing." Seeing his name there, with a neat line through it, punched the air out of my chest in a way the fall hadn't. I swallowed it down. "And Liam?" I asked. She already had a second page ready. "He becomes your sole heir," she said, "but we don't hand a house straight to a teenager, we wrap it in a trust." She drew a box and wrote house inside, then an arrow to Liam, beneficiary, another arrow to trustee, not CALEB. "You keep control while you're alive," she said. "When you're gone, a neutral trustee manages the house for Liam's benefit until he's old enough to make good decisions. His father doesn't get a single legal lever." "And Tara?" I asked. "She never had standing to begin with," Sheila said, "but we're going to make that crystal clear." She printed a one-page letter on her firm's letterhead and slid it toward me. It said in polite legal terms that all questions about my house and estate had to go through me or my attorney. Third parties were not to seek direct involvement or advice. "This goes in our file and yours," she said. If Tara starts another future of the house conversation, you point at my name and change the subject. For the first time since the fall, I felt something close to solid ground under me. She turned to her computer again. One more thing, she said. With your permission, I want to check something on the tax side. You signed an authorization years ago that lets me see your IRS account activity. Sometimes the money problems show up there first. Go ahead, I said. She typed for a minute, eyes flicking across the screen. Then her mouth tightened. There it is, she said. My pulse ticked up. What? Your IRS online account, she said. You've never logged into it, but 2 months ago someone requested a PIN reset from an IP address that isn't my office and isn't your home internet. I stared at the date, 2 months, right around the time Tara's informational emails had multiplied. Could that be a bank or the accountants? I asked, already knowing. She shook her head. No, and after the reset, someone tried to sign in and failed your security questions. I pictured Caleb at my kitchen table, jaw tight, Tara hovering with a laptop open between them. My broken wrist suddenly felt less like bad luck and more like escalation. So they've already been poking around my tax records, I said. Which is why, Sheila replied, printing again, we're going to flag everything. She handed me a short form with county recorder at the top. This notifies the county that any change to your title, deed transfers, mortgages, liens triggers an alert to you and to my office. We'll do similar flags with your banks and the IRS. I signed left-handed, the pen awkward in my fingers, my name a jagged version of itself. As the ink dried, she gathered the stack of fresh documents, new will, trust draft, limitation letter, fraud alerts, and squared them into a tidy pile. With this, she said, tapping the papers, your house stops being their plan B or plan anything. I looked at the little mountain of paper between us, then at my cast, then at the window, where Boise's gray winter sky pressed against the glass. They're counting on that house to save them, I said quietly. Sheila met my eyes. Then the moment they find out it won't, she said, is when they'll show you who they really are. And I realized the ground hadn't shifted under me. I'd just moved it out from under them. Tara showed up holding a drink carrier like a peace offering and a weapon. I brought coffee, she said, smiling too wide when I opened the door. Thought we could talk, just us. Her eyes flicked to the steps, then to my cast. She did a little shiver like the cold offended her personally. Come in, I said. I stepped back, leaving the door open. No closed-room conversations with this woman ever again. She clicked down the hallway in those boots she wore when she wanted to feel taller than everyone. In the kitchen, I set my phone on the table beside my elbow, screen down. My thumb found the side button and pressed twice. The tiniest vibration answered. Tara slid into the chair across from me and pushed a cup toward my good hand. Vanilla, right? She said. I remembered. I took a sip, too sweet but hot. You said you wanted to talk. She took a breath like she was about to make a speech. Caleb is hurting, she began. He feels like you're turning your back on him, on us. Going to lawyers, changing things, freezing him out of your life, it's tearing the family apart. I let the words hang. Silence always tells you what someone really wants. She squirmed, then tried again. You know he loves you, what happened on the stairs? He's sick over it. And instead of working through it as a family, you go straight to being defensive, secretive. What secrets? I asked mildly. Her gaze sharpened. You went to that attorney, she said. We're not idiots, we know what estate lawyers do. Wills, deeds, beneficiaries, you really think we wouldn't notice you suddenly getting so protective? You seem very specific, I said, for someone not in the room. She slid her fingers along the coffee lid, eyes on my cast. I've seen the numbers, she said finally. This house is worth a fortune now, 450, maybe 5. You alone in all this space while we're drowning in bills, it doesn't make sense. You've seen the numbers, how? I asked. Zillow guesses. A faint flush crept up her neck. Caleb showed me some of the county stuff, she said quickly. Your assessment, the way your retirement and equity line up, it's not like it's private. You act like we hacked the Pentagon. My retirement isn't on the county site, I said. She blinked, then looked away. He's your son, she said. He's trying to be proactive, we're just planning. Planning, that was one word for it. What are you planning? I asked. Use small words, I'm old, remember. Her patience thinned. We're asking you to do what a good parent would, she said. Transfer the house now, gift it while you're alive instead of hoarding it, put it in our names so we can refinance, pull some equity, get out from under these bills. It helps us and it protects you. You'd never have to worry about repairs or anything alone again. And if I do, I asked. Her smile vanished. Then you're choosing money over your own family, she said. Over Liam, we are barely holding things together. One emergency, we're out of our place. You could fix all of that with one signature. There it was, the center of the maze. What about Liam? I asked. Where does he fit in this solution? In the house, she said immediately. With us, his parents, you want him secure, so do we, but if we lose everything because you won't help, that hurts him too. You don't want to be the reason your grandson suffers, do you? Using Liam as leverage, she really was going to hit every square on the manipulation bingo card. I watched her for a long moment. The clock ticked behind her, steady as a metronome. On the table, my phone lay quiet and patient. You said you've seen my assessment, I said. My retirement, my tax numbers, all without me handing you a single statement. She tossed her hair. We're family, we're supposed to plan together. I smiled, small and cold. Are you willing to say all of this? I asked softly, to someone who isn't me. Her forehead creased. What's that supposed to mean? Because if I ever do sign anything, I said, I want to make sure the officer who took my fall report and the attorney you just name-checked without knowing it understand exactly why you wanted me to. Tara's face hardened like I'd flipped a switch. You really think this is over, she said. You cut Caleb out on paper and that's supposed to mean something? He's not just going to roll over, he will fight for his share. His what? I asked. His share, she snapped. Of this house, of your estate, of everything you're sitting on like it's all yours forever. He's your only child, Marion, that matters. It used to, I said. Legally it doesn't. I pushed back from the table and reached for the folder on the sideboard with my good hand. The motion tugged at my ribs, but it was worth it. I came back with a single piece of paper and laid it between us. From Corbin Law Group, subject, representation and estate changes. Tara scanned the first lines, pacing with her eyes. Beneficiary designations updated, no expectation of future inheritance. Her mouth stopped moving. What is this? It's a letter confirming I changed my will and estate plans, I said. Filed, signed, witnessed. Your share is a story you and Caleb told yourselves. You can't just erase him, she burst out. We've been planning around that house for years, the equity, the security. You've been planning around my death, I said. Let's call it what it is. She shoved the letter back toward me, breathing fast. You are unbelievable. He loves you, he breaks his back trying to take care of his family, and you thank him by cutting him off because you lost your footing. I lifted my cast. This is losing my footing. He came at me, I went down, and now I know what I'm worth to him in dollars. Her lip curled. You're worth nothing if you won't help. You're just an old woman in a drafty house taking up space while your son drowns. Useless. The word landed, sharp and familiar. I let it sit between us and die there. Then it's a good thing you're not in charge of my use, I said, or my house. Her eyes glittered. Caleb's not going to let this stand. He'll get a lawyer, will contest everything. You can't stop him from claiming what's his. He's welcome to try, I said, but he won't be using my address to pay for it. Footsteps sounded in the hall. Liam appeared in the doorway, hair mussed, backpack still on. Mom, I can hear you from my room, he said, voice tight. Then he saw my face, the letter, Tara's posture. Are you fighting about the house again? This doesn't concern you, Tara said. It does if it makes Grandma fall downstairs, he shot back. He walked straight to me and wrapped his arms around my shoulders, careful of the cast. His hands were shaking. I don't want you to move, he whispered. I like it here, I like you here. I held him as best I could with one arm. I'm not going anywhere, I said steady. You're safe with me, remember that. He nodded, eyes shining, and backed away when Tara snapped his name. Go to your room, she ordered. He hesitated, then looked at me. I nodded. He disappeared down the hall, shoulders tight. As soon as he was gone, Tara grabbed her keys. You're going to regret this, she said. When Caleb is done being nice about it, you'll wish you de-cooperated. Get out of my house, I answered. Her jaw clenched. She stomped to the door and slammed it hard enough to rattle the frame. The quiet that followed was almost physical. Then my phone lit up on the table. CALB. I watched it buzz across the woods, stop, start again. Voicemail, another call, another. The rhythm turned frantic. By the fifth round, the screen showed 11 missed calls and 3 unheard messages. On the sixth, I picked up the phone and held it in my good hand, my thumb hovering over the green button. Answering wouldn't just mean a conversation. It would decide exactly how far I was willing to let this go. By the time I heard Caleb tell the story under fluorescent lights, he'd already forgotten which lie he'd settled on. The interview room at the station was smaller than on TV. No two-way mirror, just beige walls, a metal table, and chairs that squeaked when you shifted. Denton had invited me to sit in for context. Tara had insisted on coming for support. Liam sat in a separate room with a female officer and a box of tissues. Caleb's foot bounced under the table, jittering the whole thing. Like I said before, he told Denton, she slipped. It was icy, I warned her. Denton flipped open his notebook. You told me she lost her footing while turning, he said. Your wife said she leaned wrong. Today you're saying you warned her and she ignored you. Which is it? It's all the same thing, Caleb snapped. She fell. Why does it matter how many times I said it? Because, Denton said calmly, details matter when we're deciding if something is an accident or not. Tara leaned forward, nails drumming. Officer, this is getting ridiculous. Marion is confused, she's been in pain, and she's been influenced. Her eyes flicked at me like I was a bad ad she wanted to complain about. You shouldn't be taking what she says as gospel. Denton didn't bother looking at her. You're not the one I'm interviewing, he said. Sit back. Her mouth pinched, but she did. He turned a page. Your son just gave a statement, he said to Caleb. He says he heard raised voices, then saw you move toward your mother, says you shoved her. Caleb's head snapped up. He's a kid, he said. He freaked out, he didn't see it right. He described your arm hitting her hip, Denton said. The same hip she says you hit. He also says you told her, and I quote, sell the house or this gets worse. I watched the blood drain from Caleb's face. He hadn't known about that part. That's not, he's twisting it, Caleb stammered. I was trying to get through to her, she's being unreasonable, I didn't mean. Tara cut in, voice sharp. We're under financial stress, that's not a crime. She's using this to punish us because she doesn't want to help. You should be looking at elder paranoia, not. Mrs. Burke, Denton said, finally looking at her. If you interrupt one more time, I'll end this for today and note your interference in the file, your call. She sank back, eyes burning. I slid an envelope across the table with my good hand. You said you wanted documentation, I said. Inside was the hospital report. Wrist fracture, rib contusions, notations about mechanism of injury, and patient denies preceding dizziness. Behind it, copies of the photos the nurse had taken for their records, purpled ribs, swollen wrist, bruises laddering my back. Denton scanned the first page, jaw tightening slightly. Thank you, he said, this helps. Caleb stared at the envelope like it might explode. So what now? He demanded. You going to arrest me because my mom fell? Charge me with, what, being a bad son? Denton closed the folder with a soft, final sound. Right now, he said, this is an ongoing investigation into a possible domestic assault. I'm not making decisions today. I am, however, making recommendations. He turned to me. Ms. Burke, given the injuries, the conflicting statements, and your son's financial involvement with you, I strongly suggest you consider a no-contact order. At minimum, something that keeps him from showing up at your house uninvited. Tara scoffed. You can't be serious. That's her family. That's her safety, Denton said. He slid a pamphlet toward me, protective orders and your rights, thin, ugly, very real. If you decide to file, he said quietly, we already have enough on record to support it, and if he ignores it, well, then we're not talking about a questionable fall anymore. I looked at the paper, at my son's pale, furious face, at Tara's barely contained rage. For the first time, the question wasn't whether Caleb would come back to my steps. It was whether, next time he did, I wanted the law waiting there with me. The day the papers went from draft to done, Sheila didn't say congratulations. She said, sign here and he's out. The conference room smelled like copier, toner, and coffee. My cast rested on the table, fingers awkwardly pinching the pen as I scrawled my name on the last page of the trust agreement. Sheila watched the notary stamp the document, then slid it back into the stack with a small, satisfied nod. That's it, she said. Title is now in the Burke family trust. You as trustee while you're alive, Liam as beneficiary after. No one else has a legal foothold. And Caleb, I asked, even though I knew. She tapped the folder with my old will inside, corners clipped. Revoked. No share in the house, no fallback clause that kicks anything to him. From the law's perspective, he has the same claim as your mailman. It should have hurt more than it did. Instead, I felt something like relief, cold and clean. We were halfway through a fresh pot of coffee when Sheila's assistant knocked and leaned in. There's a call from the county recorder, she said. Says it's about Ms. Burke's parcel number, sounds urgent. Sheila's eyes sharpened, put it on speaker. A woman's voice filled the room. Corbin Law, this is Marla at Ada County Recorder. We got a flagged inquiry on parcel 1732B system shows there's a fraud alert, so I'm required to contact the owner or counsel of record. That parcel belongs to the Burke Family Trust, Sheila said. What kind of inquiry? Someone attempted to start an online transfer, Marla said. Forms incomplete, no owner signature, but they entered the address and last 4 digits of a social. Didn't match the one on file. We kicked it back. IP traced to a residential provider on the west side of town. I didn't have to ask whose. Name on the attempted filer, Sheila asked. It was left blank, Marla said, but the contact email was a Gmail with Tara Cares in it. Sheila's mouth thinned. Document the attempt and leave the fraud flag in place. If anything else hits that parcel, I want a copy. Already in the system, Marla said. Oh, and your client might want to know I pulled some public record history. The same email is tied to 2 defaulted liens and a repossessed SUV. It's not pretty. After she hung up, Sheila turned her monitor toward me. Court dockets, collection actions, judgments. Their finances weren't just strained, they were crumbling. They weren't just stressed, I said quietly. They were desperate. Desperate people make messes, Sheila said. You just stop them from making one with your house. That night, the calls started. The first voicemail came while I was loading the dishwasher one-handed. Mom, it's me, Caleb said, voice ragged. The bank said there's some kind of trust now that the property S locked up. What did you do? Tara's freaking out. I thought you'd take care of us. I'm your son. He sounded like a boy who'd broken a window and didn't know how to fix it. The second message was shorter, no tears this time. You had no right, he said, breathing hard. You can't just cut me out. I'll find a way around whatever that woman filed. You can't keep what's mine. By the third, the softness was gone. If you think a stack of paper is going to save you, he hissed. You're wrong, you owe me and I will get what I'm owed, one way or another. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in my good hand, cast heavy on my lap and hit save on each message in turn. Then I forwarded all three to Sheila and to the email address officer Denton had written on his card. The fourth time Caleb's number flashed on my screen, it didn't go to voicemail. Someone was pounding on my front door. I didn't open the door. The pounding went on long enough to rattle the glass in the side lights, then stopped. A truck engine revved, tires spat gravel, and the street went quiet again. The next morning, I took my cast and my bruised ribs down to the Ada County Recorder's office. The building was all beige tile and old fluorescent tubes, the kind of place where people argued about boundary lines and divorce decrees. I took a number, sat in a hard plastic chair, and waited while a couple ahead of me complained about a fence. When it was my turn, the clerk, Marla from the phone, peered at her screen over purple reading glasses. Parcel number, she asked. I slid the trust paperwork across the counter. It should be under Burke Family Trust now. There's also a fraud alert on it. She typed, nodded, got it. Someone S been a little too interested in this lot. Which is why I'd like to make it as boring as possible, I said. No online transfers, no remote filings. If anyone wants to touch this title, they show up in person with ID or it doesn't happen. Her brows went up. You want a full protection freeze? Yes. She smiled, small and approving. Good choice, she said, printing a form. Sign here and the only person who can move this parcel is you standing here with this ID, she tapped my license, or your attorney with court orders. I signed left-handed. The stamp she pressed on the form sounded like a gavel. By the time I got home, Sheila had already moved to the next piece. She forwarded me a copy of the letter she'd sent certified to Caleb, 2 pages of legalese boiled down to one message. You have no ownership rights in your mother's home, now or in the future. Any suggestion otherwise is false and potentially fraudulent. He didn't call me that day. Tara did other things. Cousin texts started trickling in by evening. Hey, you okay? Tara's saying you kicked Caleb out of the family. She's saying you're not in your right mind after the fall. I invited exactly one of them over. I put the trust summary on the table, the recorder's fraud alert beside it, Sheila's limitation letter on top. This is what's actually happening, I said. You can believe paperwork or a woman who tried to transfer my house with a Gmail account. By the end of the week, the gossip had shifted. Whatever story Tara had spun about elder paranoia didn't survive contact with stamped documents. Liam noticed the change first. Mom's mad all the time, he told me quietly that Friday night, dropping his backpack by my door. At you, at me, at everyone, Dad just yells, can I stay here this weekend, just us? We made a new pattern without saying it out loud. School with them, weekends with me. Board games on my old coffee table, grilled cheese, movies where nobody shouted over the dialogue. He slept through the night in my guest room. I didn't, but that was all right. Someone in this house should get rest. On Sunday afternoon, after I'd dropped him back at their place and come home to the quiet, my phone chimed with a new voicemail. Not a call, just the message icon. Caleb hadn't even bothered to ring first. I pressed it to my ear. Breathing hard and uneven, a slam like a fist hitting a dashboard. You think you've won, he snarled, voice low and shaking. You think hiding behind lawyers and paperwork makes you safe. You just wait, Mom. Trust or no trust, fraud alert or not, you can't lock me out forever. You can't take my life and hand it to my kid over my head. I swear to God, you're going to regret this. I don't care what it takes. The message ended in a harsh exhale and the beep. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in my good hand, cast a solid weight on my arm, and listened to the silence afterward. Then I saved the voicemail. And for the first time, I didn't wonder if I should give it to Officer Denton. I only wondered how much more he'd need before he moved from recommendations to handcuffs. Denton listened to the voicemail twice. The second time he closed his eyes, jaw working. We were in his small office at the station, blinds half closed against the bright Boise afternoon. My phone sat on the desk between us, screen dark, speaker still. "You saved all three?" he asked. "Everyone since the trust went through," I said. "The crying, the bargaining, the threats, that one's the newest." He tapped a key on his computer, then picked up my phone with a tissue like it was evidence already. "This goes from upset family member to harassment right about here," he said. You ending to Caleb's promise that I'd regret this. And given the history, the fall, the financial angle, the attempted title transfer were well past recommendations. He typed for a moment, eyes on the screen. "I'm logging this as criminal harassment tied to the ongoing case," he said. "My advice is the same as before, just louder. File for a protection order. No contact. No coming to your house, no calls, no third-party pressure. If he ignores it, we have teeth." "And Tara?" I asked. "If she helps him violate it, she's in the same boat," he said. "You don't have to talk to either of them ever again if you don't want to." The idea felt strange and quiet like snow. By the time I got home, Tara had chosen a different kind of contact. Screenshots came from a neighbor first, then a cousin. Tara's Facebook post, a long paragraph under a photo of Caleb looking wounded. "Please pray for our family. Caleb's elderly mother is cutting him off and has become emotionally abusive since a small accident. She's being manipulated by outsiders and trying to ruin us financially. We're heartbroken but trusting God to protect us from her cruelty." Hundreds of likes, a few "so sorry" comments. One or two, there are two sides to every story from people who at least smelled smoke. I didn't comment, didn't post my bruises or the trust documents or the fraud alert. I watered my plants, fed myself dinner, and emailed the protection order paperwork back to Denton instead. 2 days later, the post was updated with comments limited due to negativity. Silence has a way of making lies echo. Sheila called that afternoon. "One last thing to lock down," she said. "We've handled the house, now we close the back doors." She sent over the final clause. If I became incapacitated, neither Caleb nor Tara could act as my agent or guardian without a court fight. My medical and financial powers of attorney went to a trusted friend, and down the line to a professional trustee for Liam. "They don't just lose the house," she said. "They lose the ability to use you to get to it." That evening, Liam sat at my kitchen table with a box of colored pencils while I made spaghetti. "Done," he announced, sliding a sheet toward me. It was a simple drawing, my house under a big square of blue, two stick figures on the porch steps, one with gray hair and a cast, the other shorter in a hoodie. Above us, in blocky letters, he'd written, "Save here." My throat tightened. "You did a good job on the railing," I said, because it was easier than saying everything else. He shrugged, suddenly shy. "I like it better here," he mumbled. "Nobody's yelling." The next morning, as I sipped my coffee and looked at his picture on the fridge, my phone buzzed with a new email from Denton. "Order granted, service scheduled. Call me if he shows up before then." I set the phone down, walked to the front window, and parted the curtain just enough to see the street. For the first time, I found myself hoping, very quietly, that if Caleb came back to my door, he wouldn't arrive alone. Caleb picked the first truly peaceful morning he'd ruined in a while. The doorbell went off in one long, aggressive buzz. Not a tap, a demand. I walked to the foyer but stopped 3 feet from the door. Through the frosted glass, I saw his outline on the porch, big and restless. At the curb, Tara's SUV idled, exhaust drifting. She sat in the passenger seat, phone up, already recording or rehearsing. He hit the bell again. "Mom, open the door, we're not doing this." I slid my phone from my pocket and called Denton. "He's here," I said, "at my front door." "You open it?" he asked. "No." "Good, I'm close, stay away from the glass. If he starts kicking, call 911. I hung up and moved to the side window, just enough curtain parted to see without being seen. Caleb pounded on the wood with the side of his fist. "Come on, we need to talk. You can't hide behind some piece of paper forever." From the street, Tara shouted, "We're not leaving until you give him the keys and stop this insanity." My house stayed quiet, I did too. A patrol car turned onto the street, then another, lights off but quick. They boxed in Tara's SUV without touching it. Caleb saw them in the reflection and swore under his breath. Denton stepped out, vest on, bodycam already blinking. "Morning, Caleb," he said. "You picked a bad porch." This is a family discussion, Caleb insisted, hands up. Your little order isn't even served yet, I just want to talk to my mother. Denton unfolded a packet. Good news, I can fix that, he said. Protection order now served, you are officially not allowed to be here. Tara stormed up the lawn. You can't keep a son from his mother, she shouted. She's confused and being controlled, we're here to help her. Denton's gaze didn't leave Caleb. For the record, he said, this is the same son who left a voicemail promising she'd regret protecting her house. That audio's on my bodycam now too. Caleb's jaw worked. I was upset, you're twisting. You're here yelling at a protected address after multiple threats, Denton said. This is me being generous. Get back in the car, don't come back without going through court. Next time I don't talk first. Tara glared up at the windows. Marion, you really think this protects you? That house is ours eventually. You can't change that with a trust and a tantrum. I didn't move. The only voice they got was Denton. Last warning, he said. Leave now. Caleb broke first, spinning toward the SUV. Doors slammed. The patrol cars waited until they drove off, then eased away in opposite directions. Only then did I step back into the kitchen. My phone chimed, a new email from Sheila. Final deed and trust language ready. Once you sign, it's irrevocable. No one can ever add Caleb to the house. I stared at the message, at my cast, at the quiet porch outside. He'd just proven he couldn't stay away from my door. I was about to decide he'd never touch the deed either. The paper that erased Caleb fit under a single yellow sticky flag. This is the last one, Sheila said. Once you sign, the trust is irrevocable. No one adds him later, not even you. We were back in her conference room. My cast was off now, wrists still stiff, fingers clumsy around the pen. She turned the page so the paragraph faced me. Under no circumstances may Caleb Burke be added as a beneficiary, remainder beneficiary, or occupant of the Burke family trust property. My son's name, printed so cleanly, followed by a permanent no. You're sure you want this language? She asked. There's no soft version. I don't want soft, I said. Soft got me down the stairs. I signed, left-handed, ugly but legible. The notary's stamp hit the paper with a dull thud that sounded a little like a door closing and bolting. That's it, Sheila said. Title S in the irrevocable trust. You're trustee while you're alive. When you're gone, it's Liam S. through the trustee. Legally speaking, Caleb is a stranger to this house. On the drive home, the place looked the same as always. Peeling trim, tired shingles, pine shadows on the siding. But when I stepped out of my car, the air felt different. For the first time, I walked up those stairs and thought, this is mine in a way no one can touch. 3 days later, Sheila forwarded the delivery confirmations. Certified envelopes signed for at Caleb's address, his scrawl jagged, Tara's name in hard, angry loops. A cousin sent the rest. Saw Tara at the pharmacy. Said you gave everything to the kid. She was waving papers around like a flag. That night, my voicemail light blinked. Mom, Caleb said, voice dull and stunned. The bank laughed at me. They said your house isn't yours anymore, it's some trust for Liam, and I'm not even on the list. You killed my leverage, do you get that? I was counting on that house. On you, what am I supposed to do now? For once, there was no anger under his words, only the shock of someone who just discovered the safety net was never actually his. I saved the message, then climbed my stairs slowly, hand on the rail, listening to the familiar creaks. Halfway up, I realized the fear was gone. My body could still break, but my house and everything it meant was finally out of his reach. The only thing left he could try to break now was me. The house didn't change much, but the way it felt did. The low, buzzing tension I'd lived with for months finally went quiet. No more jumping at every car door, no more staring at the porch when a truck slowed. The trust was filed, the order was granted, the voicemail stopped. I started with the stairs. A contractor ripped out the old cracked rail and installed a new one, solid wood, deep brackets, everything sealed against the weather. When he left, I ran my hand along it, testing. It didn't give. Inside, I fixed what I'd been ignoring, the dripping pipe under the sink, the flickering hall light. I boxed up things I kept out of guilt instead of love and dropped them at Goodwill. Every small repair made the house feel less like storage for other people's expectations and more like shelter for me. Liam noticed first. He came most weekends now, dropped off by a social worker's white sedan that never stayed long. He bounded up the repaired steps and slapped the new rail. This one's better, he said. It feels strong. Me too, I said. Here he sprawled on my rug with his Legos, fell asleep halfway through movies, ate without flinching at sudden sounds. He drew new pictures from my fridge, us on the porch, the house behind, a big blue sky over everything. No words this time, he didn't need them. Mom says you're turning me against her, he said once, not looking up from his math sheet. What do you think I'm doing? I asked. He tapped his pencil. Letting me breathe, he said. News about Tara and Caleb came secondhand. A cousin mentioned Tara working nights. Sheila forwarded a garnishment notice for your records. Denton told me, almost offhand, that the judge had tied any future changes to my protection order to Caleb completing counseling and financial classes. He sticks with it, great, Denton said. He doesn't, that's on him. Either way, your paperwork stands. I didn't call to check. Distance wasn't punishment, it was treatment. One afternoon, Sheila came by with updated copies for my binder. We sat at my kitchen table while she slid the trust summary into the front. You did it, she said. Most people flinch halfway through. You saw it to the end. You protected everything. Everything that's mine, I said, and everything that's his. As she left, the mail slot snapped. A thick envelope slid onto the mat, County Court in bold letters. The judgment on all of it, trust, order, and Caleb's last excuses, had finally arrived. The envelope was heavier than it looked. County Court bold in the corner, case number stamped underneath. I carried it to the kitchen table like I used to carry inspection reports, steady, careful, already braced for what it might say. My hands didn't shake when I opened it. The ruling was dry, dense language, but I'd learned to translate legal into plain English over the last few months. Petitioner's estate plan is valid and enforceable. The Burke Family Trust shall remain in full force and effect. Respondent, Caleb Burke, has no current or future equitable interest in the subject property. Protective order is extended and may be revisited only at petitioner's request. That was the court's way of saying, the house is yours, the plan is Liam's, and your son doesn't get a key, a claim, or a loophole. I read it twice, then I set it beside my coffee and listened for something inside me to crack or crumble. Nothing did. Later that afternoon, Liam came over with his backpack and a permission slip. They said I could stay the whole weekend, he blurted, kicking his shoes off, if it's okay with you. It's more than okay, I said. Come here a second, I want to show you something. I spread the ruling on the table, next to the trust summary and the fraud alert notice, a pile of paper that looked boring to anyone else. What's all that? He asked. It's what makes this house ours, I said. Now and later, nobody can take it from us. Not the bank, not a scammer, not even family who gets confused about what's theirs. He studied the stamps, the signatures, the county seal. Then he stepped forward and hugged me so hard it knocked a small breath out of my chest. You're safe now, he said into my shoulder like he was the one reassuring me. I am, I said, and for the first time it didn't feel like optimism. It felt like fact. That night I walked upstairs to bed without counting each step like a threat. My hand slid along the new rail, my body remembered the fall, but my mind didn't replay it on a loop. The stairs were just stairs again, something to climb, not survive. In the morning, I pulled the blue estate binder onto the table one last time. I added the court ruling to the very front, slipped Liam's latest drawing in the clear pocket, two stick figures on the porch, a big house behind them, no one else in the frame. On the spine, I wrote in neat black letters, Final. Caleb's name appeared in the binder only where the law needed to know who no longer counted. In my day-to-day life, it appeared less and less at all. No more truck in my driveway, no more calls that weren't routed straight to a file. His anger and his excuses shrank down to pages and recordings in other people's offices. He'd once seen this house as his future. Now it was simply the place he'd been removed from on paper, in court, and in my plans. One cold Boise evening, as Liam and I stood on the porch watching the sky go purple over the pines, I looked at the steps where everything had started and realized the story really was over. My son pushed me down the stairs by accident, so I pushed his name off the house.